Two. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Put Paint on It, your weekly Friday hobby show with me, Skari, your grateful host, my wonderful co-host Tanya Gates, the War Mistress, and every week we have a fantastic guest for you to meet, chat with, hobby with, put us in the background and ignore us, whatever you want to do. This is season 4, episode 8 of Just Put Paint on It, and I'm Skari, and I'm painting Corsairs, which are pirates with little pointy ears. And their armor is very ornate, and it's taking me forever to paint this unit. And introduce my wonderful co-host, Tanya. Boo-boo! Tanya, how's it going? Why don't you tell people who you are, what you're doing, and what you're working
on? I'm Tanya, and you can find me lots of places on the internet, but mostly I do Forge the Narrative podcast, and I do weekly sort of tips and tricks to play Warhammer 40k on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. Sometimes I do hot takes on Twitter, and I'm working on Ogres. They're almost done. So I'm going to be working on their metallics a little bit today, and that's what I'm doing.
I sent you Ogres in the mail. I hope they show up soon.
Me too. I'm so excited.
It's really fun. Okay, introducing... Well, actually, Tanya, why don't you do the honors and introduce our wonderful guest today?
Okay, so I'm so excited that Elle is here because I first met her when I was interviewing her for the Nova Open Charitable Foundation. Nice. And we just had so much fun that I asked her to come on the show. So, Elle, why don't you explain to the people what it is that you do and why I think you're so awesome?
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Skari. Very happy to be here. I am Elle, and I do miniature painting content. I stream on Twitch. I'm on YouTube as well. Play war games too. I do some products reviews sometimes. I don't know, just a little bit of everything. I also am a maker of amazing rosemary pretzels. I don't know why you guys needed to know that, but now you know.
No, I needed to know. That sounds delicious.
Who doesn't like pretzels? Like, if you don't like pretzels, you should not be watching this.
Yeah, exactly. So good. And I'm very proud of that. But anyway, I paint miniatures, and I like getting together with friends and getting to connect with people in the community. So that's why I'm here. And thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime. Thank you so much for coming out. Is there anything you're working on today specifically while we chat?
Yes. I started working on Horus from Ankh, Gods of Egypt.
Ooh.
Nice.
It's a Egyptian god in the game. It's a very large miniature, so I'm really excited. After painting Grogu from Star Wars Legion.
So tiny.
It's like it's just like less than a centimeter.
Wait, you can use Grogu in Star Wars Legion? What?
You can now, yeah, it just came out actually. Mando and Grogu. And then I don't know if I have it here, but if I can show it to you.
They know how to pull at those heartstrings, don't they?
Yeah, they have 2 versions of Grogu, and the one I painted, I don't know if you can see or not, but
it's just the one with the frog in his mouth. Yes.
Oh, that's so small. That's so tiny.
So tiny.
I would go.
So I'm like, I need something that I can actually see, and I have to wear my magnifying glasses for. So, of course it is.
Do you own a pair of painting magnifying glasses?
I have some actually.
Nice. I just squint very hard.
I use these really dorky looking ones, and they have like a light, and it looks like I'm just gonna go mining somewhere. But
awesome.
Do they? I feel like I would have a hard time figuring out where the brush was until it got into like the field of view.
Actually, yeah. I've tried using some other magnifying glasses before, and like the actual thing with the lamp, and it really messes up my depth of my perception.
Yeah.
Perception.
Yeah.
But this actually was not as bad, so I could use them. I only use them with like tiny little things like that, but otherwise I just use my regular glasses. But I don't think I need them with this one. This is this is quite large, so
I haven't
Well,
played that game,
that
but
is
I've seen the
awesome.
minis, and they are so beautiful.
For the God of War
Yes.
one or the Gods of Egypt or whatever?
The gods of Egypt. What is it called?
Mm.
Ankh.
On Gods of Egypt. Yeah.
I know my husband keeps looking at that, and he's like, "Oh, I kind of want to
What
buy
should
it
we
just for
call
the
our game,
minis."
Fred? Ankh.
Ankh Gods of Well, Ankh is just like the little cross that has like a circle on the top, you know? That's very
Mhm.
Egyptian. And it's just
No,
a
I-
symbol of life, I think. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's a really cool game. I really enjoy it. There it's a series. There's a series of 3 games that the same Eric Lang, which is the designer, he's Canadian actually too, which is pretty cool. He made the first one in the series was Blood Rage. It's a Viking era style game. It's really good too. The
Nice.
second one he did was Rising Sun, which is on the Japanese lore.
Mhm.
I actually have that one, but I've never played it.
Oh, it's
Is it a
so
miniature
gorgeous on
game?
the table. Yes, they're all like, and they're made by Simon Games, which make amazing miniatures. So now the third one of the trilogy of different cultures is Ankh,
Nice.
and I think this is my favorite one, for sure.
Sounds
The
really
mechanics
fun.
are, it's just so fun and so easy, and the mechanics are really, they flow really nice, and it's easy for even new players to try it. And yeah, I really enjoy this one.
I do like games that are like that. They're so like easily accessible, you know, for
Yeah.
newer players or for people who like already know lots of games and want to like try something different and new, which I think is
Yeah.
always nice to have. Like, I feel like as a Games Workshop like player, it's easy to just get stuck in the world of Games Workshop and like
Yeah.
and not really branch out. You know what I mean? Like I'm guilty of that. You know, I just don't have the time to. You know, I
Yeah,
just
and I
want to
feel
play
like that
more.
with Star Wars too. Like I've been playing Star Wars games for quite a few years, and so I really enjoy kind of like just doing something different every once in a while. I don't know, just burnt out otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, Especially if I have to paint a bunch of Stormies, like I really don't enjoy batch painting at all.
Yeah.
And then with Warhammer, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind
Well,
of have
yeah,
to batch
I
paint.
don't play Warhammer. But yeah, I've painted Warhammer before for commissions and stuff. And yeah, you definitely have to. No way around it.
No.
Well, that's how they get you. I just want to say hello to chat. How are you? Thanks for coming to hang out.
Hello,
Shadow
chat.
Sun says I was about to go Lupercal. Sam
For
Hill says
Horus.
hello. And also Aaron says, hey, what's everybody painting today? And hey, Caleth, what's going on? Says, hello, Rid, Tanya, and Elle. Well, I'm painting Corsairs. A lot of people ask me what the paint scheme is for the Corsairs. I actually started them quite a while back, but I'm using the Vallejo Warlord Purple that Tanya sent me. And I'm essentially using that for the armor. So I did like a full heavy sort of dry brush to the whole armor, then I did a wash. Now I'm going back and highlighting it in the same Warlord Purple to sort of make the purple like pop. And then this tealy color is the Pro Acryl Jade, which is again one of my. It's like every time you send me a color, Tanya, I'm like, this is now my favorite color, and then I use it on as many things as I possibly can.
You gotta branch out and try new things.
Yep.
You tried any? I sent you. Did I send you 2 metallic paints?
You did. I did try the darker metallic one. I use that all the time. That one I really
It's nice,
liked.
right?
Yeah, that's a very very nice dark like bolt gunny metal style from back in the day. So that's very reminiscent, and I do enjoy that style of like darker metallics. But I am, of course, if you don't know, and it's the first time you tuning in, I struggle with finishing projects that I start, which is why I'm forcing myself to finish these Corsairs, even though I'm rarely going to use them, at least at the moment. I just need to force myself to do them, because if not,
Otherwise, they won't get done.
they won't get done. And
They
so
will look at you in anger forever.
they'll you know, they were thing is they get to a good enough state where I'm like, I can put them on the table, and it's sort of like legal to put them on the table, for like a tournament. And then if they're that good, then I'm like, well, I can use them now for playing games. But those are my demons.
Hi, Callie.
Calith, yeah. Calith says he loved your orc bat rep, Tanya.
Aw, thanks. I know people have been asking me to do like um, I guess, army.
Showcase?
Yeah, and I'm not good at videography, so I'm just like, I don't know how best to do that. But I don't know. I keep meaning to like ask the Play On guys for tips and tricks on how to like actually do that, but then I just forget. So it's obviously something that's not important to me.
You got to do
'Cause
stuff that you
otherwise-
want to do. If not, you're not going
It's
to want to
true.
do it. I think we've
It's reading that. It's also Aaron's comment. Funny.
if you don't attach the heads, they can't look at you. while they're in shame, just sitting on the shelf in shame because they're not painted. I know. I wish I was that callous.
I need the shame in order to like get stuff done. So.
Yeah. They need to look at me, and I need to hear them in the back of my head telling me how unworthy I am of knowing them. Just kind of how it works. So, Elle,
Yep.
how long ago did you get started with painting, and what sort of drew you to painting, like commissions and stuff like that?
Well, I started doing commissions actually this year, like this summer.
Oh, really? Cool.
I felt like, okay, I feel like I have enough experience that I can actually maybe do something that somebody else will like. Before then I just didn't feel comfortable with that, but I don't know, I've been trying it. I was a bit afraid, to be honest, because I'm like, what if like this just takes the joy out of it? You know what I mean? Like I was afraid that painting or just feeling like it was work will just feel like, not fun anymore, but that hasn't happened yet, so far so good. I started painting 7 years ago, but retook it. I will paint here and there, but I actually started like painting more often in 2019, and then obviously in 2020 was when I had more time to do it for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Most
I
of
heard
us,
like
yeah.
you guys were doing you did like 150 episodes or something every day?
Yeah, it was every day. I think it was
Wild.
140 something, but we had a
Jeez.
Just Put Paint on It show every day for, half a year while everybody was in lockdown, basically.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that in one of your videos, and I'm like, what?
The craziest part to me is that I was still working. I was still like considered a essential worker. So I would wake up like extra early to stream and then go to work. Man, such a trooper.
And then for me, it was like the budding parts of me basically doing this as a job, and the stream, and that was like the thing that kind of kicked me into high gear and taught me how to like set up streams and do streams and stuff. So, yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people that, like that was kind of the kickstart of their painting career or whatever you want to call it, time. During that time, and yeah, I really enjoy it. And I don't know, sometimes I look at it and I just can't believe how much it's grown for me, because I wasn't expecting to take off the way it did, and I'm really excited and humbled about that. People in the community have been very very welcoming for the most part. There are always going to be those people, but for the most part,
trademark that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been like really nice and welcoming. And like I said, I don't play Warhammer, but many of my friends that I've met on this community are from the Warhammer community, and I probably more than half of the people I follow on my socials are Warhammer painters, because I don't know. I just see so much variety in those models and the things you do that inspire me to really like learn things from them.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I really like that. I really like just seeing all the
That's
different
a
things. And
that's a cool story. It's nice how like at the end of the day we do what we do because we love what we do. You know, I think
yeah,
that's something that unites a lot of us together. And you know, every once in a while you'll find somebody who does what they do but they don't enjoy what they do, and kind of like scratch your head as to. I think we're living more and more in a day and age where you can sort of really pursue more what you want rather than like having to do what your parents told you needed to do or whatever.
yeah,
You know,
totally. And
good thing to remember, folks.
some wisdom for your day.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Gotti
something.
Fish, Mr. Fish says it's already Friday. Holy cow! Happy December. Happy December. I think it
Oh
is
yeah,
the 2nd of December. That means
yeah.
there's only
Sure
what
is.
23 days to Christmas Day. Get excited.
I gotta get my Christmas baking done.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
Danny Blaze says, well, that's where I get my name from. During the pandemic, half the reason is we just blazed. I'm just kidding. Well, the pandemic is half the reason my friends and I started playing and building the 40K tabletop. We were always fans, but never took the dive. Yes, totally understand that sentiment. Makes me wonder how many others appeared during the pandemic. Actually, well, the game on the other side of the pandemic, like as a game, 40K as a not just a game, but as a brand. I think that it came out of the other side of the pandemic like so much bigger than it ever was.
I think
Personally.
that people are, after being locked up for so long, I think people are just really looking to do things in person again,
Yep.
and playing games
Hmm.
is a great thing to do with
Yeah.
your friends.
Yeah, play games and hang out, and like I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, the like first of all there was a huge explosion in like content creating, you know, like people who doing videos and twitching and stuff. So, you know, it's not it's not as like uncommon as it used to be. Um so the market is really like saturated, but also now that people can go out, like a lot of people want to do things outside rather than like sitting at home and like just, you know, um
Unless you're me,
unless you're a homebody like I am,
I
and you
I
know.
I really don't want to go. Oh, beat out at 7, 8 at night. No, that's my bedtime.
I think that's just called you know,
Oh
becoming
yeah,
more
no.
mature, right? Like that's just how that works. Where you go, I look at people who like, you know, up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning still, and they're like, I can survive and do an 8 hour job, you know, on like 2 hours of sleep every night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would die.
No.
I just wanna go to bed, and I enjoy closing my eyes and
I looked at the
sleeping.
time the other day and it was 10:15 in the evening. I was like, 10? Am I a teenager? What? I need to go to bed.
Yep.
Goodbye.
I
Yeah.
I really like that, how was it the last time that you came out to play on tabletop or whatever, we like, yeah, we're gonna like visit and do stuff, and then when we got back to the hotel we're like, I'm going to bed.
Bedtime.
Good
Yep.
night.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
We said like
literally you know
nothing.
you've made it in life when you're like, ugh, light time. I mean,
I mean, I
ugh,
love you, man,
nighttime.
but I'm going to bed.
You're great,
Exactly.
but I mean, see ya.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I totally agree, Aaron. You know, it was either 40K or sourdough during
Yeah, a
the
lot of people
pandemic.
did start making
Yeah, a
sourdough,
lot of
didn't
people were
they?
like, "Yeah, I got my starter going," you know, like got the old family recipes. Like the pandemic made bakers out of all of us because we were all
Yeah.
like, you know,
Hey, I love
something,
cardio.
you know,
So
talking pandemic wise, something that I really find is I don't care who you are, where you're from. I feel like the
okay.
pandemic messed up everyone's sense of time.
Yes.
Like just
Yep.
time in general
Means nothing anymore.
feels weird, you know, because you look at you go back and you go, yeah, yeah, like this much time or whatever, and you're like, no, it wasn't that much time, it's this much time, and you go, no shit. Like, I can't believe that was that long ago or that short ago. And it's because we were literally like in this sort of like time flux continuum, freaking like time, anyway. And it's
Like,
just
what was it the other day?
messed it up
My
for us.
my husband, he was like, "Hey, we only have like $99,000 left on our mortgage," and I was like, "What? We just moved in," and he's like, "No, that was like 7 or 8 years ago." I
Yeah,
was like, "Holy
yeah,
That's
shit!"
oh my word.
yeah. The
Yeah,
countdown
it's
begins.
it's like that 2.5 years around like 2020
Mm-hmm.
didn't exist to
Yeah.
Yep.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
weird.
we were still paying our bills the
Good
entire
morning, Paul. How's it
time.
going? Thanks for coming to hang out. Nice to see ya. Thanks for leaving a comment in chat, everybody. If you have any questions for Elle, make sure you post them in the chat. We can relay them as we go
Okay,
through.
I have a question
Oh Lord.
because I am not a huge Star Wars fan. I grew up on Star Trek, but shush you.
Okay, I'm leaving. Just kidding. Go ahead.
So I'm always curious what people like. What is it about Star Wars that just like grabbed you? Like, what is it that keeps you around about Star Wars?
That's a good question. I think like you're always, for me at least, like I'm always trying to like match that epicness that I felt the first time I watched the Star Wars movies, the original ones, and I just remember feeling like this is so amazing, and I wanted to know more about it. And then the more I learned about it, the more there's so much out there. When it comes to world building or species and characters and what they all do, and like you have like kind of like Star Trek, like you have information for everything, every little ship, every little thing that shows up in Star Wars. Like there's already there's a Wikipedia is called for Star Wars that you have information. And I don't know, to me it's just fascinating to learn about it, and it's just been around for so long that I don't know. It's just kind of a cool feeling learning things that they've been, out there for so long. But what keeps me, well, at least with the board games for Star Wars, the reason this is kind of silly, but the company that used to do the Star Wars miniature games was called Fantasy Flight Games before they
Hmm.
switched to Atomic Mass Games, and they were here in Minnesota. So I don't
Cool.
know. It was a little bit of like a pride thing, like, oh yeah, it's just like a huge deal. Like I remember, like they had like world competitions, and people from all over the world will come to Roseville, Minnesota, to competitions and playing games of X-Wing or Legion or Star Wars Destiny, RIP. But yeah, I just thought it was just so cool that a Minnesota company was just so successful in making Star Wars things, and then they Asmodee took gave it to Atomic Mass Game to produce. So I don't know. I still play it, and I still love Star Wars. So I don't know. I was 12 when Star Wars was 4 was on the big screen. Oh wow!
Nice.
So
I
4?
all I
Wait, was
remember
that?
is
Oh yeah, episode.
yeah, all I remember like is Star Wars was one of the only, or like the trilogy of Star Wars, one of the only VHSs that my grandparents had at like our when I went to like visit them. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching it all the time. And I think that's just kind of what got me into Star Wars, was the fact that I just watched it and I loved it. The original movies.
Yeah, actually, I watched it as a kid too. Because my mom was 17 when the movies came out, and she got a huge crush on Luke Skywalker. So every time, it was on TV, my mom will just put it on TV and watch it, just reminisce. Oh, look at Luke, and I just thought it was kind of weird. It is kind of weird, Mom. Okay, but then I mean, I watched them as an adult, and that's when I was just like, oh, this is cool. But I mean, growing up, Star Wars was always in my house, but I wasn't really much into it. I didn't get into it until I was actually an adult, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I love that your mom is also the reason why you got into like sci-fi nerd shit, because my mom is also the reason why I got into this stuff. Like
Oh,
my
really?
my mom was a huge Star Trek fan. So
That's awesome.
yeah, we used to watch reruns all snuggled up in bed.
Aw, that's so
Aw.
sweet. It's a cool memory.
My
Yeah, and but she also installed a love of fantasy in me as well, because she loved Lord of the Rings. So she was basically like, "Hey, the movies are coming out. Here you
Yeah.
go," and like gave me her old ass copy of
Nice.
like Lord of the Rings that was threadbare, and you had to like read it so carefully because it was
Aw.
So it
falling
wouldn't fall apart.
Yeah.
My dad was always a Trekkie more than a Star Wars. But then again, he's like an astrophysicist, so I
Yeah, I
guess
was gonna
you know what I
say
mean.
he's like science, like the actual science in
Yeah,
science
yeah, not like,
fiction.
not like, was it hard sci-fi is what it's called or whatever, right? Like one that's like more based on like actual, theoretical concepts rather than like fantasy
Yeah.
sci-fi, which is kind of what
Mhm.
Yeah.
Star Wars is. But
Yeah. Everything
um
goes.
yeah,
Just
it's all
because.
like magic and Jedi and shit like that. Anyway,
Mhm.
so uh anyway, I forgot where that I was going with that. Yay, fun times. Star Wars.
But
Yay.
yeah, but your dad liked Star Trek more because it just was a little more realistic when
Probably.
it comes
He
to
also
sci-fi.
really liked Captain Picard. That was like his like he was like Picard. So I just
I
remember him.
love that, like, the hatred between, well, the hatred that Cisco had for Picard was like the way that they started Deep Space Nine. I don't know why that is just like Cisco just exists out of spite, and I think that I can relate, honestly.
Oh yeah, you don't like
Yeah.
Picard?
No, I'm just fueled by spite.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any like Star Trek games out there?
They used to have Star
Oh,
Trek
yeah?
Attack Wing, which was essentially X-Wing, but I don't think that they continued on making that once they switched to like the new system, like Attack Wing 2.0 or whatever.
Mhm.
I know there's like tons of role-playing games, but I'm not sure if
Right.
there's any other miniature games for Star Trek. I mean, there probably is, but I don't know about them.
Talking about games and Fantasy Flight games. Did you ever play that Battlestar Galactica board game that Fantasy Flight Games did? That had like you were the cards and you're like either the Cylons or like a human or a turncoat. I remember playing that game so much with my
I
friends.
just bought it to be honest with you.
Oh, really? It is. I don't
Oh
think
yeah,
I
it
didn't even
wasn't that
think they
long
made it
ago.
anymore.
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't.
I
Actually, a friend of
ouch.
mine from my gaming group, he was selling his copy. He had the base game and the expansion. And those are really expensive right now. Like if you try to find it, like $500 or something.
That's
And
nuts.
he was selling it, so I asked him how much, and then because we live close by and the game will stay within the group, he gave me a really good deal on them.
Nice.
And
Aw.
he's like, okay, I'll give it to you, but we gotta play sometime. Yeah, sure, whenever you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just bought. I love that show. It was. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's a little bizarre and kind of laughable at points, but I still enjoyed it, and the game just looks really cool. Yeah, it was Fantasy Flight.
Yep. Yeah. I just
Made
remember
that.
because of the
Yeah.
millions of tokens. Any Fantasy Flight game,
Totally.
it's a real Fantasy Flight game if like the entire box is just like punch out tokens forever.
Okay, so my husband bought me that game because I was obsessed with Battlestar Galactica for the
Yeah.
longest time, and I've never played it once because I can't get anybody to play it with me. Because you need to
Aw,
have at least 3 people,
at least
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess it's just not a big enough fandom that gets people to be like, "Ooh, yeah, that sounds cool."
Yeah,
So,
I don't really know that many people that really about it, so I'm really impressed with you guys. Like,
well, um, the main writer for most of the early episodes of Deep Space Nine and the later episodes of Next Generation was like the lead on Battlestar Galactica. So that's why some of the episodes are like a little bit wacky and it's a little bit darker and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that you're
Yeah.
talking about the newer version of Battlestar Galactica, right? Not the older
Yes.
version? Okay.
Yes, correct.
See, I remember that's the version that like came out when I was in high school, I think. Right?
Wait, what? The older version?
No,
Was
the
an older?
new version.
Oh, okay.
The newer one that was like I remember it being all the rage. At least in my group, because we had a lot of people who were Battlestar Galactica fans.
Yeah, I feel like it was high school for me too.
Yeah, it was like brand new, and everybody was talking about it, and it was like the Game of Thrones of its day, you know.
I
Okay.
never had cable, so I never watched it at the time. I found it after the fact. So I think I watched it for the first time like 10 years ago or something like that.
Although I will say, one of my favorites in terms of sci-fi, Firefly.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I don't think I have watched that. No.
You just can't. You can't do Firefly.
I can't. I tried to do it, and the
Interesting.
soundtrack was too like Wild West weird.
Well, yeah,
I
it's
just
definitely
like
it's definitely
not.
Wild West. It's like literally a Wild West in space.
I'm
Like,
not
that's what it is.
usually a huge fan of like
No wonder you don't like Star Wars.
dual genre kind of. Well, Star Wars is like a space opera.
Well, that and then like, well, for example, Mandalorian is like all, literally like a space western. Like a spaghetti western in space.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Why is it
I'm
called
not. I like
western?
because they were filmed in Italy.
There you go. Okay, that makes sense.
Hello.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I learned something new today. It just shows you how racist everything, was back in the day. Yeah, it's a western. It's filmed in Italy.
TV show,
It's spaghetti
Mindy.
western. Mork and Mindy.
Oh, that is
Robin
an old
Williams.
show.
Yeah.
Is that from the 70s?
Yes.
I don't think I
Nanu. Hey, Alex, what's going on? Alex, hello, Buck Rogers. If you like hard sci-fi, you should really check out The Expanse. I liked The Expanse. That was a very good show. It was
I've
also
heard.
But I don't know. I haven't. I saw like the the suggestion, but I haven't watched it yet.
it's on Amazon, I think, right?
would rather read the books. And the last time I checked for the books, they were really expensive, probably because the show had just come out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Wouldn't
I'm
be
gonna have to go
surprised.
looking in the used bookstores in town, see if I can find them, because I've heard that they're really, really amazing.
That was like a very, very intense show. Very like, yeah, it was. It was very intense in a good way, in the sense that it was like very much, life or death in a lot of situations, because you're literally in space, and the resources you're fighting over is like air and water, like it's
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
it gets pretty, and if your ship goes bye-bye, like there's not exactly like a lot of things that you get to do in space to survive.
Right.
So
That reminds me a little bit of that, The 100. I think it was the premise of that show. Like they were in space for a long time, and then they just kind of went to Earth to see if it was habitable, kind of like Wall-E. But they sent all these like 100 kids, like 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, just really young people, to go check out Earth, and then all this drama ensues.
Lord of the Flies style, eh? I see
Yeah.
how it is.
I watched Wednesday this week. Have you guys watched that?
I did not. It's but it
So-
was on my YouTube-y, my Netflixy suggestions thingy today.
Yeah, it's cute. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a movie, but it's actually a show with like 7 episodes or 8 episodes.
Oh, and if you like Willow, right? You remember the old movie
yeah.
Willow? They're doing
Yeah.
they did a series on Disney Plus. They're doing a series with it.
Is it out already?
Yeah, first 2 episodes are out.
Okay, I'll need to watch that.
Like, and so if you're a Willow fan,
Yes.
don't weep.
Yep.
Ha!
Everyone should be a Willow fan.
Yeah, Willow is like a classic. it was like very cheesy too. Like I feel like they're making it like a cheesy 80s style like they did back in the day, which I think is awesome, personally. But that's just me.
Oh, I like that.
Does it have Val Kilmer in it?
I don't. Well, I haven't seen him yet.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. He was in Top Gun, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. But they like did special stuff in there to, kind of like add him to the movie based on like his is it cancer, throat cancer that he has or something?
Yeah.
So he can't really talk.
Yeah.
Aw, poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a
Mhm.
really hard time
Uh,
talking.
Expanse was great till the last season. Everybody can make their own judgment, I think. I liked it. I liked it. Of course, what happens is they cancel a show and they have like all these ideas and then they have to like tie up all the loose ends. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
sometimes it's like a very abrupt sort of like, and it's done. And you're like, but
Man,
I
that's that.
wanted more.
What?
You know?
But how?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, so I don't really watch shows anymore just because I don't have time. But I was a big Carnival fan, which was an old HBO show, and at the time it's a beautiful
Carnival.
show.
I
Yeah,
remember that show. Oh my
and the
gosh.
first two episodes or the first two seasons were like amazing, and then it got canceled in the third episode, so they had to like quickly wrap it up, and you could tell that they like quickly wrapped it up. Like you could just tell that there was supposed to be many more seasons going on. Um
I
yeah,
remember
it
that show.
it was good, right? Like it was the
Yeah.
most expensive show ever made in season 2.
And that a
I
show that
do.
I'm angry about that they cancel is Santa Clarita's Diet. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. It was so good. I don't understand why they will cancel it. But yeah, it ended in a huge cliffhanger and it's canceled. No! It's
um
devastating.
So in the case of Carnival, it was canceled because it was very cerebral. Like it was very symbolic, and it really made you think about things, and shows like that just generally don't tend to do very well.
Yep.
So yeah,
I
I had
remember,
heard
like,
that
I loved the
somebody had
premise,
That's
like
that.
the premise where you had the management and you had like all this stuff, and it was really like really creepy, but also very human. Like I like that
yeah.
show. That show was good.
Yeah, and there was always like it always seemed like the Carnival there was like almost like either like a tear in reality, or it seemed like there was like an extra sort of parallel universe that kind of was just sort of touching ours every time the Carnival was around. Like it was just
Mm.
really interesting, and like the whole idea of like the struggle between good and evil, and how like the avatar of evil and the avatar of good were neither really good or evil in and of themselves, but how these like other kind of powers kind of worked through them, whether they liked it or not. I don't
So I
know.
think there weren't really like Brazilian carnivals in it. Thing like that.
Not that kind of carnival. It happens in the Dust Bowl of the 30s. So it's like a traveling carnival where they would have
Oh, I
like,
see.
Like a fair.
yeah, like dancers and
Carnival.
rides and stuff.
I'm thinking of carnival.
That's how it's actually spelled, I believe, is carnival.
Interesting.
It is really interesting. It's also really expensive if you want to try and find it on DVD, and I don't know if anybody is streaming it. I guess HBO has their own streaming,
Yeah,
so it's probably
HBO
there.
has it on there if you want to watch the series. It's one of those things
But
that you
yeah,
always go back and watch, like The Sopranos, Band of Brothers, Carnival. Like all
yeah.
the OGs.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful show, but yeah, the third season is really disappointing because like you could tell that there were supposed to be 3 more seasons after it. Which is sad.
Somebody
Sad.
said Val turned down on Willow. Oh, but he was invited, huh?
Well, he would
That's
have been. He was like a major character in the. I did not know he turned it
yeah.
down.
Bad
Well, who
Mardigan.
knows? They might, once a show does okay or whatever, sometimes they'll reconsider and kind of get written back into the story or whatever.
I mean, maybe
So
at
who
the same
knows?
time, like if he's not feeling well, like maybe
Yeah, or he's just
they
like
couldn't
done with that
accommodate
character,
him,
or
or
he's like, I feel like that character's developed enough for. Sometimes I guess actors get to a point where they're just like, anything I do is more because I haven't done it before, or you know what I mean, like that sort of thing.
yeah.
Right. Um. Yeah, and I know like the princess that ends up with him. I know she's in the show, because I saw her in the trailer, so I know she's there.
Yeah, she's there.
And it's been like forever since I watched that movie. I own
Oh,
it on DVD, so I should probably watch it.
yeah, I
Willa?
actually watched it not long
I
ago.
kind of want to rewatch it because I watched the first episode of the show and I'm like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, okay, I really need to go back and
You need
rewatch
to,
it so I
yeah.
can understand like all the characters and stuff again because it's been so many years since I have watched it. So, man, oh man, it's crazy how fast time flies when you're having fun, eh?
Just like this part of the movie as a kid completely freaked me out, and I watched it as an adult, and it freaked me out still. But
You know the movie that always freaked me out? Freaking
what?
Never-Ending Story.
Oh my god,
Terrified
I
me.
love that movie. Yes, it's freaky as hell.
Absolutely terrified me as a kid. Like I had like nightmares, like literal nightmares about that movie.
Atreyu was like my first crush. I was like 8 years old.
Oh man, in like the swamp with his horse, like if you don't
my God.
ugly cry during
Oh,
that scene, you are a monster.
yeah, you have
Yep.
no heart. You have no heart. Artax! Oh, then you would remind me of it. So sad.
My
I'm
uncle
gonna
says
cry
Paul.
just thinking about it.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
the yeah, that's such
But
a sad
what
scene.
part gave you nightmares? So what is
Oh man,
that
what
freaked
was
you
it?
out
The thing
about
is,
it?
I think it was the puppetry for me. Like I watched it when I was very, very
Um,
young, and because I
yeah,
had such a vivid imagination, like they
yeah,
just looked real to me. You know what I mean?
yeah, of
Like
course,
just
yeah.
super real. So I always was terrified of well, the darkness in general was just like terrifying.
Yeah,
Like the
Yeah.
unknown or whatever it was called, because it literally was just
did
eating the whole
nothing.
world. But
Yeah.
I think it was more some of the like trials when you had to go through the trials, like that anxiety,
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
That
for
was
me
the
as a
one.
kid, not knowing that okay, he's a hero, so he's probably gonna be okay, like just
Yeah.
totally believing that they might die at any moment, or whatever, and just getting really, really anxious about it.
Oh,
Paul Greer says, my uncle was one of the characters that was in Band of Brothers. He made it all the way to the Battle of the Bulge. It got pulled out of the fight due to the trench foot.
Ugh.
oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, no, well,
That's
that Band of
crazy.
Brothers is, I rewatch that once a year,
Oh, that's
maybe.
such a
Like, it's such a good fucking show.
yeah. It is great.
Mm-mm.
Also, tearjerker many
Mm-hmm.
times.
Anthony says, I was just a kid when I watched Neverending Story on VHS. Horrifying. Yes,
Yeah.
it's terrifying, okay? If you're a kid and you watch that movie, I don't care what you say. That movie is scary as fuck. Not only that, the kid has to deal with, like, bullies, and I was bullied a lot. And, like, they were,
Oh,
like, mean to him. And I was like, yeah, they're mean, and that was, like, very relatable to me. And then,
Right.
on top of that, he goes into the story, which I think was great, because I had a huge imagination, and then he had to deal with all these monsters and stuff. Anyway, it was just messed up.
tell us about all your childhood traumas
I
and
know, right?
insecurities,
Well,
and
when I was
still have
young.
10 more minutes.
My mom let me watch like shit she shouldn't have let me watch. Like
Me
I
too. Me too. My parents should have done better.
right like I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, and my dad thought it would be a great idea to watch Platoon with me, and I was like, right.
Oh,
And like, of course, I get so messed up by it. So then he's
Thank you,
like
Dad, for the
snuggling
use of
me.
therapy.
Yeah, yeah. And to this day, like, I hate war movies. To this day, I cannot watch them at all.
Yeah, they're hard to watch. For me too. I could do Band of Brothers, but yeah, war movies are kind of hard for me as well.
See, that's funny because, well, not funny. What I'm saying is the irony in that, for our conversation here today, is like my favorite movie of all times is Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, which is a Vietnam War movie.
Oh yeah.
right? But it's not like it doesn't glorify war or like, you know what I mean? It's more about like how shitty it all is, you know, turning
Yeah, see,
like,
those
you know
are
what I
the
mean?
movies I can't watch. I
Right?
can't watch
And
them.
it's more
Yeah.
like they go through their training, they go from being civilians to being like trained killers, and then they get put in Vietnam and like shit goes down, you know what I mean? And it's like messed up. But that's like that movie. I watched it when I was like a teenager and I never knew the name of it. It was like, but I dubbed in Spanish and like on TV. And I always thought it was like, oh man, that movie's intense. And then I finally realized where I learned what the name of the movie was. Boom, Full Metal Jacket. And then I watched it full and I own it now and stuff. And I'm like, that movie is like intense. And it's probably my favorite movie.
I could do war movies where like you're killing orcs, zombies. I don't mind the gore in those. You know, I could do Lord of the Rings, I can do, whatever. But yeah, when it's real people, it's just a little hard for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do
Yeah.
have nightmares if I do.
Yeah.
No.
I liked Inglorious Bastards.
Oh,
that was
That's
a
the
good
kind of
movie.
movie that I like, right? Because
Yeah.
it's sort of following multiple storylines and you don't
Yeah.
actually see a lot of the actual fighting.
I like that one too.
Yeah, so that one was really good for me.
Isn't it, do you like, was it Snatch? Is that the one where they're like, it's very similar? It's got like Brad Pitt in it and stuff. And you like Dags, you know? That's the name of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I love that style of movie. That's like, yeah, that's a cool style of movie. Lots of moving parts that come together at the
Mhm.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you guys into anime at all? Or anything like that?
My main anime that I watched was that I started and that got me into anime was Evangelion,
Okay.
which is like the originals. And then I've watched like a lot of anime in my time. I wouldn't say I'm like an anime expert by any chance, but I enjoyed like some of
Yeah.
the classics like Afro Samurai, or I
Mhm.
actually really enjoyed One Punch Man, which I watched with my son. And at first I didn't really understand the premise, and then I watched it. I'm like, this is freaking hilarious, and I love this show. Like I actually really enjoyed it.
Have you ever watched Attack on Titan?
No, I have not.
Oh,
No,
okay. When
but
you
like
say that you
Cowboy
watched it,
Bebop,
I
for
just got
example.
excited all of a sudden because I'm like, is he gonna say Attack on Titan? Is he gonna say
Yeah,
Attack on Titan?
maybe I
'Cause,
should.
yeah, that's just my favorite show probably of all time. More than anything. Even I will say more than Star Wars sometimes.
Ooh.
It's just like it's such an amazing story. I'm not an expert in anime or anything, but God, I love Attack on Titan.
The only anime that I've seen that I really really liked, I like the Appleseed ones. I think Appleseed Ex Machina, it might be actually my favorite.
Okay.
And I
Nice.
think I like them because like I've seen Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that, and that movie is like beautiful, but it doesn't hold my attention because the like I call them like cutscenes. There's like huge cutscenes in it, and I'm like a modern person, so I don't have like the attention span to keep watching through the cutscenes for more of the story.
Right.
But yeah, I think that I like Appleseed because it follows more of like like Western kind of style storyline, and I think it's easier for my brain to grasp it.
Follow, yeah.
Mhm.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is pretty
That's
good
the
too.
one I was gonna say I haven't watched, but I would probably like to, and I've heard is really good.
It's watch the Brotherhood one, not the other one, because the other one they did when the manga wasn't finished yet, so they just came up with their own kind of story, like halfway the seasons. But then it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't great, but that's just my opinion. But once the manga came out and they did Brotherhood, I mean that's a real story, following the manga. It's amazing. Such a good one too. I mean,
Nice.
it's not Attack on Titan for me, but still pretty.
It's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just find that these days I don't have that much time to watch stuff, so when I do have time to watch stuff, I just watch things that I know that I love. So right now I'm kind of working my way through the seasons of Xena again, because that was my
Oh,
childhood.
nice. I remember
Yeah.
watching
I love
those on
those.
television.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, so I just like I have two new codexes. like one for Age of Sigmar and one for 40k. So I need to study to learn because I just don't learn easy. So I'll like sit down with my notebooks and stuff, and I'll just put on like an episode of Xena and like start drawing pictures of how things work and that. And it's just nice to put on, like, it's like comfort food. It's like a nice little blanket for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Something that reminds you of, you know, nostalgia.
Yes, 100%. And like it kind of rewatching it, it makes me realize just like how influential that show was on me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good, so bad, but so good.
Why so bad? I think it's great.
I mean, the special
Oh,
effects are really bad.
Oh yeah.
The special effects are bad. The acting is bad, but I think it just sort of adds to its charm. And also, like, 19-year-old Carl Urban is hilarious.
Snatch is a great movie, says Paul. I agree. Hey guys, says Paul, I'm almost done building my Black Legion. Would you use any of the black contrast paints? I guess you could like do like a no, I guess I don't know. I used it on a Black Templar. I liked Black Templar black, like contrast. I don't think it was bad color.
I don't really use contrast, so I'm not the person to ask.
Then again, I tried slap chopping, and that didn't go well for the model I tried it on.
The thing with Black Templar is like super opaque. I don't know, depending on how black you want your miniature, I will probably dilute it with a bit of like medium of some kind, just to get, you know, the values a little defined. Otherwise, I just find the Black Templar just super, I don't know, pigmented, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just depends on what you want to do with your miniature. I just like seeing some shades and shadows on them, but
Makes sense. Well, we are coming towards the end of the show, so Elle, this has been really, really fun, really enjoyable hanging out with you. So thank you so much for sharing with us and answering questions
for
and
taking
painting
the
and
time.
chatting. It's really good. So why don't you tell everybody at home where they can find you the easiest, as well as if you have any projects coming out soon, you know, or anything coming up, what can people look forward to?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm mainly there sharing my work and sharing tutorials on different things. I'm also on Twitch. You can find me under Elle_Firespray on those. Then you can also find me on YouTube under the same name, and Twitter, also on Facebook Facebook as well. I recently started working with Atomic Mass Games on their it's a mod on their group for their new Star Wars game, Shatterpoint, which is also on Facebook, so you can find me there if you have any questions about the game. I cannot help you other than what they told us. but it's gonna be, I don't know, it's a really cool thing. If you're into Star Wars and miniature painting, make sure to check it out. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, Instagram is usually what I'm used to most.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really awesome. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, Elle.
Yeah,
Tanya, yeah, it's been great. Anytime. You're welcome back. Repeat guests anytime. Absolutely. This was really fun. Tanya, why don't you tell everybody at home where to find you and what you have coming down the pipeline?
I'm sure that Skari will post the links, but you can find me on my own YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter. Sometimes repost stuff to Facebook, but I don't spend any time there. You can find me on Forge the Narrative podcast. I just was in a battle report on Play on Tabletop, so you can check that out if you haven't already. And I'm going to be at Las Vegas Open. So I'm not playing. I'm going to be part of the stream team. But if you're there, you can stop by and say hi. I'll probably be walking around with a headset and a clipboard.
And a big whip, making sure Val does his job.
That's right.
Or a
Val,
big stick.
did you do the thing?
Gonna walk softly and carry a big stick.
Not a big stick, probably just like a ruler.
Ooh, a ruler. Yeah, get on it, Val. Come on. Whoop-pow! Like one of those big meter rulers, like the giant ones that my teachers used to whip us with? No, not that one.
No.
Oh, they didn't
just
whip
a
you
short wooden one
as a kid?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't do the whole hands out, put your hands out and smack you with the ruler.
No.
Maybe happened once. Anyway, uh, I've been Skari. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Make sure you leave us a comment down below. What's your favorite anime/manga? Because I'm curious. I want to hear more about that. Of course, if you'd like to support the channel, make sure you head on over to Patreon. That is the best way to support me and what I do so I can continue to do cool content like this. So the links will be down below. Make sure you check out Elle and Tanya as well, because a rising tide raises all the awesome ships in the harbor. Other than that, I've been Skari, your grateful host. This has been Tanya, and this has been Elle. And we leave you with a just put paint on it mindset. Bye, everybody!
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye!